For today's session, we'll have Dr. Sahar Shah, and she'll be talking about reimagining education leadership for the post-COVID era in Pakistan's context. Dr. Sahar Shah holds a PhD in education leadership and management from the University of Cambridge. She has worked with education institutions in Pakistan, UK, and Hong Kong in the capacity of an education consultant, research associate, teacher, and teacher trainer over the last 13 years. Currently, she is working as a postdoctoral researcher on international research projects in the field of comparative and international education. Thank you, Dr. Sahar Shah. Over to you.
Thank you so much, Bilal, for the very nice introduction. Assalamu alaikum, everyone, and good evening. I hope you can hear me. If you can't, just drop in a message on the chat box. Okay, so basically, thank you, Cedar School, for inviting me to this fabulous conference as a panelist. And I will basically be talking about reimagining education leadership for the post-COVID-19 era in Pakistan's context. Now, basically, let me just see if I can move the screens. Okay, so the way I've structured this presentation is I conducted a study on school leadership in Pakistan, particularly in the province of Punjab, on secondary school head teachers in private and public schools. And I will be sharing some findings from my research, and I will be connecting it to the current context of this current COVID, post-COVID era, and what messages were brought about by this era, and how school leaders need to reimagine or redefine their role as school leaders. So I'm going to talk about the ecological context that surrounds school leaders in Pakistan, and then what are the self-perceptions of school leaders, what they have to say about their experiences, the leadership experience. And eventually, I will talk about how COVID-19 has sort of affected these experiences and further will be affecting these experiences. So I would like to know about your views about school leadership. So what is the first thing, word or term or a sentence that comes to your mind when you think about school leadership? If you could just take 20 seconds to just pop in your response in the chat box, that would be great. Okay, I see that there are 13 participants. I hope they can hear me. So just, I'll wait for 20.
They're all writing on the chat box.
Okay, great. Okay, a clear, defined vision. Very nice. Responsible, values, belief to work with team. Excellent. Being able to see through things from the eyes of one's followers. Okay. Okay, so very nice. So I can see that few of you have responded with very introspective responses. So when you're thinking about school leadership, you're thinking about responsibility, values, working with team, having a clear, defined vision, and being able to see things from the eyes of one's followers. Excellent. So yes, these are facets associated with school leadership, for sure. So when we conceptualize school leadership, according to research, if you're looking at what is the purpose, why is school leadership important, we are looking at how it eventually affects student learning outcomes, which is the main goal or one of the primary goals of education institutions. And according to research, the effects of school leadership and management on student achievement is basically mediated by, there's an indirect relationship, and it is affected by the school and classroom conditions. And there are many theoretical debates that talk about whether we can define school leadership as school management, or school leadership should focus on instructional leadership, teaching the teachers, training them. Should it be a relationship-oriented role, where there's focus on relationships, or primarily task-oriented role? And then there is a very important debate of whether leadership is an inborn trait, or can leadership be developed and learned. So it is not very straightforward or simple to conceptualize school leadership, the concept of school leadership. And these debates continue to grow. The main thing to consider is, if you look at school leadership in Pakistan's context, then the historical, social, political, and the cultural context is very important in how leadership is defined and understood. And particularly in Pakistan, educational leadership and school leadership has been framed by significant unpredictability since the past few years. So school leaders in Pakistan have been navigating economic turbulence, violence in schools. If you look back at the APS unfortunate incident in 2014, the environmental impact, issues such as dengue and now currently COVID, a lot of legal interference, a lot of government sanctions regarding schools, what sort of security is the school providing, whether the school can increase the fees, especially for private schools. And the rise of social media influence is also another factor, where now different stakeholders in the school are interacting with each other on a separate forum, such as interactions between teachers and students, parents and teachers, and what role now does a leader need to adopt in order to navigate these sort of changes. So there are many things that need to be considered. And if you look at it, if you visualize the ecological context surrounding school leaders in Pakistan, so we can imagine that the school leader is in the middle, which is a microsystem, and the immediate influence on the school leader is that of the mesosystem. Basically, this is an ecological perspective of looking at school leadership, which I adopted for my study. And the mesosystem basically looks at the interactions between teachers and students, parents and teachers, even the relationship between students and parents, and how these relationships affect what the school leader does or practices leadership. Then another subsystem that influences leaders is the exosystem. Basically, that refers to the government, the economy, the environment, law, technology. And all of these subsystems are actually influenced by a larger system called the macro system. Basically, the values and the mindsets that prevail in the society. Now, they basically affect all these different subsystems. And all of this is happening over a period of time. So that is where the chrono system comes in. So a school leader is basically under a lot of influences, and what sort of leadership approach does the school leader adopt, and how the leader perceives the environment is influenced by these ecological factors. So I would like to ask you something very basic. According to your understanding, what is the most probable reason for why someone would opt for a school leadership role in Pakistan? Would it be chance? Would it be a passion for school leadership, or would it be a lack of other options? What do you think are the most probable reason? I'll just give you 20 seconds to put in your answers in the chat box. Okay, passion. Passion again. Chance or lack of other options. Interesting. Passion again. Lack of other options. Chance. Money. Okay. Chance again. Okay, so we have passion, and then we have A or C, which is chance or lack of other options. and chance. Okay, very nice. So mostly people would say, okay, there's a either people are really passionate to become school leaders, or they became school leaders by chance. So let me tell you what my study told me about this question. So when I conducted research on school leadership, and I basically surveyed 264 head teachers. So among them, I interviewed a selected group of head teachers, and according to them, they became, majority of them basically shared that they became a school leader or the head teacher by chance. So I would just share their quotes with you. Um, so a private school principal, a female principal, said, I had no intention to become a head teacher. It all happened by chance. I was a teacher, and then I was promoted to the position of the principal. And then another school owner, a private school owner, male, had to say, I was the regional manager for 6 years of a foreign company before this. Actually, I entered into education accidentally. It was my brother-in-law who introduced the idea to me. So it was interesting to see that many of the experiences had to do with how they never planned on a school leadership career or role, and completely by chance or by opportunity, they ended up becoming a school head. Now, school leaders were asked about what are their main responsibilities as a school head. And I would like to share with you the themes that came out, that within Pakistan, what do school leaders or heads have to deal with on a daily basis? And they were particularly, the responses came out to be talking about everything. So what are the main responsibilities of school head? A private school head teacher had to share the role of a head teacher is everything: academics, extracurricular activities. School headship is beyond that. It includes grooming of students and the staff. A school develops the nation, the laborers. Everything is in this profession. And another head teacher shared that the role of the head is not that of an educationist in public schools. We have to look after the parents, the teachers. Dengue, cleanliness, the targets set by the government are unachievable. Can you imagine that even controlling dengue is a head teacher's responsibility? So now looking at this situation, the theme that was coming out was that there's a lot of load on a school head teacher. So in this case, I would like to ask you, according to your experiences, if you're a school head yourself, or you know about someone else, or so generally from your idea, what do you think are the main challenges faced by school leaders in Pakistan? So let's talk about the main top 3 challenges that school leaders are facing in Pakistan. Okay, someone was asking, did your study look at private schools or public schools? It looked at both schools, 4 types of schools, private schools and public schools. Okay, integrating technology into education, right? So top 3 challenges, or even the first challenge, just talk about one main challenge that school leaders would be facing. Having teachers not willing to change. Academics first, dealing with the parent body, advising, okay. Financial management. In public schools, ensuring that students don't drop out. Lack of resources. Very nice. Okay, so yes, these are definitely challenges that are being faced by teachers. Maintaining academic standards, definitely. Perfect talent hunting in reference to teachers' selection. Yes, for sure. Technical issues, right. So this would be dealing with ICT, I suppose. Maintaining good relationship among all students and staff. Yes. Okay. Thank you so much for these very insightful responses. Definitely, these are the top challenges faced by school leaders in Pakistan. And according to my study, there are 7 top challenges. I guess the most recent one would be ICT, which is a current challenge thanks to COVID. But when I conducted the study, the school leaders came up with a couple of challenges that they are facing. So it starts with the struggle. So a private school head teacher, female head teacher, had to say that I had to fight to establish my authority. I was dealing with influential parents. Mostly the fathers visited the school and tried to impose their opinion when they saw a female in the principal's seat. I have become much stronger due to that experience. Another public school head teacher had to say, I was told in the beginning that I won't be able to do anything, but with willpower and encouragement, I have done something. So it starts with a struggle at the beginning of the career of a school leader. In particular, this was experienced with female head teachers, particularly. And then moving on, school safety. This was the second topmost challenge faced by school leaders. So school leaders had to say, we are scared. Now our jobs are not about education. We are constantly involved in disaster management. Our roles have become broad-based. We have to run everything. We have to ensure that a child is not kidnapped. We have to ensure that the school is secure and will not be bombed. Our focus is not on academics anymore. How can we focus on academics when we are more concerned about protecting our lives and our children's lives? Similarly, another private school head teacher had to say that the law and order situation has deteriorated for schools in Pakistan. The focus now is more on the safety of students and on training the staff how to handle possible situations that can threaten the school and its members. We have to appoint snipers now, and much more attention has to be diverted towards gate duties rather than inner school duties. So these were issues that were popping up quite frequently in the responses of head teachers in the study. And of course, as someone pointed out, teacher quality issues. So according to them, retaining teachers has become a big problem for teachers. I can understand that they want to earn more money, and that is why the academy trend has become so popular. But this causes teachers being distracted in schools, and they don't pay enough attention to students in school. They are more interested in their academy students. Another private school male head teacher had to say, these teachers, they seem to be going about it as if they have done a PhD on it. However, they know nothing about teaching. They need to be trained about different ways of teaching and using techniques, audio, visual, kinesthetic, all these aids in teaching. So of course, teacher quality is a major problem, and teacher training is a major problem for head teachers. And then someone pointed out relationship with parents. So parental resistance is also a major challenge. For instance, a private school head teacher had to say that another problem is parents insisting on children getting A's rather than on holistic education and the growth of an individual. They celebrate A's and nothing else. A female private head teacher had to say, you cannot teach students about Christmas or about the different festivities celebrated around the world. You can't talk about comparative religion. The parents have objections. A private school male head teacher had to say that when we invite parents for workshops, they are not interested. We are doing this to guide them, to share new information and reinforcement. The parents are not supportive and are not participative. So head teachers face parental resistance. And then, as someone pointed out, financial constraints. Definitely. A public school head teacher, male head teacher, had to say there are so many issues that we have to face, such as financial issues, but we have no authority or decision-making power about anything. A private school head teacher had to say that one thing that I have difficulty with is having to gain permission from the board of directors in granting scholarships to deserving students. I consider this as a barrier to my role as a head teacher. So financial constraints definitely remains a problem for head teachers, whether they're directors or simply principals. Then a major challenge is a lack of government support. So a private school head teacher says, non-supportive, zero, zilch support from the government to private schools. I mean, what happened after APS? They started shutting schools down because of no barbed wire in a school. So we have a lot of pressure in private schools. Another private school head had to share, the government just makes things complicated for us. Every other day, we are getting notices from the government to do this, to build higher walls, to increase school security, to appoint more guards. There is no consideration about each school's requirements. There is no consultation with educationists. They just issue sanctions. Then a public school head teacher had to say that the problem is that there is no proper system and time frame for evaluation by the government. The secretariat just comes for 2 years. They have low expertise of the area. They come, bring their own policies, change everything, and then leave after 2 years. This creates a mess for those who are actually running the schools. So this is a major issue which public schools are facing and private school head teachers as well. And another major challenge faced by head teachers, particularly females, was the work-family life imbalance. So a female private head teacher had to share, personally, the negative side of headship is that I have less time for my family. I have to work during the evening as well. A public school head teacher says the daily work hours of a head are beyond the normal school hours. We have to think about the school 24/7. We can never switch off even when we are with family. Another public school head teacher, female head teacher, says, I spend no time with my husband and children, no lunch, no breakfast. My house does suffer. Okay, so the point is that someone is asking, have you conducted your research only on private schools? No, it was public schools as well, as I mentioned before. So the point is that these are issues that a school head teacher, whether in a private school or a public school, are facing. The major top challenges, this is in a pre-COVID era. And given that they were facing these challenges, I would like to ask you, the audience, what do you think, if there are so many challenges of being a school head teacher, what are the main perks of being a school head in Pakistan? So this seems like a dismal state of affairs. Why would anyone continue being a school head in Pakistan? Kindly share your responses in the chat box. Okay, authority, money, and power. Okay, wow. So money is a major motivator. Respect, courage, and money as well. Okay. Bigger paycheck, but far bigger responsibilities. Yes. If my family life suffers, then even no big money can do its part. So a balanced work for heads is required, definitely. The opportunity to propagate constructive philosophy. Very interesting. Okay, it all depends on the kind of public and private school. Yes, fair enough. If no family, then good time pass and keeping yourself busy and active. Good time pass, right? Very interesting. So the main perks of a school head in Pakistan: the opportunity to create a better system. Yes. Any other responses? Okay, very nice. Thank you for sharing your fascinating responses. So according to this study, when the head teachers were asked about the main perks of being a school head in Pakistan, so trust me, no one mentioned money in my study. And what was actually mentioned was number one, love for children. So we're talking about school head teachers and what makes them keep on going forward despite all the hurdles that they face. So a private school head, male head teacher had to say, interacting with children is the biggest perk of being a school head. Apart from this, not much. A peon of the school has more going for him than me. And this is a private school head. This is a male head teacher of a very big private school, a very famous private school, and it was very interesting to see the response. Another public school female head teacher says instructing children and listening to them, discussing stuff with them is the most positive part of being a school head for me. Another private school head male teacher says being a head teacher synchronizes with my nature. I am family loving. My temperament is such that I love children and interacting with them. So definitely the main perk of being a school head and to continue happily across along this job has to be something to do with the people that you're dealing with daily, which are the children in school. So that love for children apparently is a big perk for school leaders. And then, yes, someone mentioned respect. So respect turned out to be another main perk of being a school head in Pakistan, as a private school head teacher shares. The main benefit of being a head teacher is that people are in their limits. Everyone respects you. Everybody will be in his or her limits and they regard you and treat you with courtesy. Another public school female head teacher says there is high izzat, a lot of respect in this profession, support from family and society, especially for females. And another private school head teacher female says the main perk of being a head teacher is the title, nothing else. You gain a lot of respect. So respect turned out to be a very important perk, and particularly for females, this was a popular response. None of the males particularly mentioned that respect is a major perk, but love for children and definitely their connection with the ability to better the system would be another reason why male head teachers would choose to be a school head. So now looking at the current or the scenario, the findings of the study, the autonomy, accountability, and responsibility nexus turns out to be an inverted triangle. So essentially, a school head is influenced by the government, by the parents, does not have enough control on teachers, does not have control on the ecosystem. So there is actually a very low level of autonomy as a school head, if you look at the research findings. Many of them feel that is not in their control. Even though they feel responsible for everything, they don't feel they can control much. Then there is a lot of accountability. They have to respond to students, to parents, to the government especially. They are responsible for everything, and they feel that everything is their responsibility. So the scenario that is coming out from this study is that school heads are probably feeling a bit lonely in their jobs as a school head. It was interesting to see that they feel that they are the head and everything has to come from them. Everything will radiate from them. So this model of school leadership basically is that of a hierarchical organization model where there is one man on the top and that man is running the show. So I'll just come back to that point, and I'll now talk about what did we learn from this COVID-19 experience starting last year in Pakistan. So according to experiences collected from different people and my own experience and what head teachers had to say after going through these last 1.5 years or 2 years, COVID is definitely, we learned that it's the process of renewal. Everything sort of it was set at a new level. And COVID means agility. So it sort of taught us that it's okay to go into the unknown. The way schools immediately responded, so many schools responded to the shift in education, turning to online education was remarkable, especially in Pakistan, which is supposedly a developing country or still not fully developed. And the important thing that was observed, that the leader, the school leader, this principal that we're talking about, doesn't have to be physically present. The leader can actually operate remotely and focus on less micromanagement, as opposed to what they probably feel that they have to be present everywhere in the school. Then, of course, digital technologies became up as important resources for the school. So now what we are learning that, okay, if there is rainy day, if the roads are blocked, if there is a protest happening, we can actually now use all these online resources to continue our classes, our meetings, our trainings. So this is something that we learned from COVID. And team building is vital to encounter uncertainties effectively. Now, this team basically came up, the importance of this team building came up when schools had to conduct online classes. So, who do you need for these online classes? You need your teachers, and then you need these IT specialists. You need people who can make presentations, who can manage conducting these online classes, and you have to basically depend on a team now. So, as a school leader, you were not running the show. You could just basically depend on a number of people and build up the team, and they were doing the job. They were conducting the school, they were running the school basically during these COVID years. And then there was a focus shifted a lot on self-care, because COVID suddenly brought a lot of focus on our health and family time. And of course, it focused on importance of developing new networks, especially online. So people started engaging more with each other online and developing different groups and forums for dealing with situations. Essentially, in regards to education, it was realized that education it has to basically dealt with a collective approach. The entire community has responsibility for education. The parents, the teachers, the government. It's not only the school head or the people in the school who are dealing with, who are responsible for education. And the COVID particularly focused on this because now what was happening, that parents were taking responsibility for education, making sure that the children are sitting for the classes. The teachers were there online on time. They had to be, their accountability increased. The government also had to support by providing probably electricity, internet. The government's role also enhanced. And then taking care of, okay, so we have to provide vaccines and also. So this situation, basically, it brought focus back to, okay, who exactly is responsible for education? It is the entire community, not just one person. And the goal of leadership expanded to include mental health. Now, that is very important. This was something that was probably not there before in a pre-COVID time, of how a school leader now has to take care or consider mental health of the workers, of students, of teachers, even of parents, and their own mental health as well. So this particular role was expanded to that angle. And what was basically what comes out from this entire fiasco is that school leadership is not a solo dance. So the model that was coming out from the study was that school leaders probably consider themselves as lone rangers taking care of their school, and everyone basically demanding from them, they being accountable to others, they being responsible for everything. So this exclusive focus on the school principal, this is a very limiting and non-sustainable view. There has to be a leader plus view of school leadership where it is recognized that leading and managing schools can involve multiple individuals in addition to the school principal, and the focus has to be on developing a team. Now, so now if we talk about reimagining education leadership for the post-COVID-19 era, so what are school leaders supposed to focus on? So three things basically came out, three major things came out basically, which is school leaders should focus first of all on self-care. Extremely important. So according to my study, it seemed as if most of the head teachers were burnt out. They were not highly motivated. They felt overburdened. They were not enthusiastic. They were not inspirational. So it is extremely important that you need to first take care of yourself, your mental, emotional, physical health, and then can you be an effective leader. And of course, team building has to be focused on. You have to actually look at professional ways of building your team, maybe take courses in managing human resources. And emotional attentiveness becomes an extremely important part of school leadership. So if you go through each of these different aspects, so looking at self-care. So if you look at that triangle, which was where you have actually, according to the previous study, according to the study where the autonomy was very little, you can actually enhance your autonomy by first of all focusing on self-care. So create conditions for yourselves as school leaders to be good leaders. Attend to yourself first, your mental health, physical health, emotional well-being. Focus on what can be done as leaders modestly. Don't try to control everything because that can be very frustrating. However, a very important part is that what COVID brought was a lot of uncertainty, and many school leaders were literally flailing. They felt they were drowning. What is happening? Parents, started getting the students out of school. Students stopped attending classes. Teachers started getting sick. Even principals started getting sick. So a lot of uncertainty was happening, and a successful school leader would have a huge capacity for this frustration. So as a school leader, it's very important to understand that these things will happen. You need to build your capacity for frustration and accept it, basically. So that is where you can increase your autonomy. That is what you can control easily. So I would say that will be the first thing of how to envisage yourself as a school leader. Then let's talk about team building. So again, coming down to how school leadership is not solo dance, how the responsibility has to be shared, networks have to be developed. And I think this conference is a very important step, this current conference in that direction. And it is quite fantastic how different educations have been brought together to share views on education and use of technology in education, because we need to build our peers networks. We need to build capacity through these sort of seminars and workshops and conferences, and develop this team, basically the collective approach where the entire community is responsible for education and not just one person in one institution. So the responsibility needs to be shared. And finally, if you talk about emotional attentiveness, so the focus of school leadership definitely has to have, they need to be caring, empathetic. Someone mentioned how you need to look at things from another person's point of view. So that is where empathy comes in, compassion. And currently, teachers are also coming back from this COVID phase. So it's important to teachers don't need evaluation right now. They're dealing with learning gaps that students experienced due to COVID. They're dealing with health issues. They're dealing with families coming back together into routine. So teachers need to be given that space currently, not be harshly evaluated immediately. The focus should basically be on creating a safe learning environment where a love of learning is created among everyone, rather than looking at results, rather looking at grades, learning outcomes immediately, because that cannot be the focus right now. The COVID taught us that everything is sort of uncertain, everything is shaky. So as a school leader, the focus should be on this relationship aspect of leadership, to basically bring people to that environment, to make them first feel secure, and then maybe then go on to putting more pressure on them to achieve higher, to be more productive, to produce more results. So in conclusion, how can we reimagine education leadership for the post-COVID era in Pakistan would be, I would say, we need to look at the humanizing aspect of education leadership. So we need to focus on making incremental changes as school leaders, not drastic changes. We need to be easy on ourselves as school leaders. And we need to develop the technique of crisis management, the ability to face instability, to build that capacity for frustration. Then we need to understand that as a school leader, you're not on your own. There is a whole community to work along with, and the whole community should understand this as well. That they share responsibility. And of course, we need to enhance implementation of digital technologies for network building, improve coordination, basically share our responsibilities, build the team. And finally, we realize that mental health became a very important issue. It existed before COVID as well, of course, but after COVID, this became a major issue in households, among students, among teachers, among principals, mental health. So we need to put children's social well-being in all projects, in all classes, in all lessons, in all seminars. And we realized that our world did not fall apart if we did not have numeracy and literacy tests. If we did not have A-level exams, if we did not have the matriculation exams, the world did not fall apart because of that. So the focus again is when you're talking about student learning outcomes, the idea is that there should be increased focus on this process of learning rather than the outcome of learning. And that is what I think as a school leader needs to focus on. This is a message that this COVID era brought to us. And here I would like to conclude my presentation, and I would like your feedback and your questions in the chat box. And thank you for listening, by the way.
Thank you very much. The audience may ask their questions on the chat box.
Yes. Wonderbar, what's that? I'm glad to see that, Ms. Mehnaz Amir. You're very welcome. It was a pleasure. Oh, very nice. Wonderful in German. Thank you for teaching me that. Wonderbar. Very nice. Thank you. I'm very humbled to read that, Mr. Sajjad. Okay, sure. You're welcome, Ms. Hina. Thank you for listening to my session.
Ms. Said, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hello. Ms. Said, before I end the session, I just want to ask you if you could tell us a bit about any other educational projects you're working on, any other kind of research you're currently doing?
Yes, sure, Mr. Bilal. So basically, currently, I'm working on a project of scaling this education management information system in different countries. So I'm working with this project with SAHI, the Society for the Advancement of Education. And we are looking at how to successfully, effectively scale the optimal use of MS systems across Pakistan, Laos, and Nepal. And how can we benefit? So how can that benefit eventually schools, the learning outcomes of both boys and girls across these different country contexts? So yeah, so that is what I'm working on currently. And apart from that, I'm also the director of a national grammar school in the Punjab province. I'm focusing on the academic department, where I'm involved with teacher training and developing the curriculum. So yeah, that is what currently I'm involved in.
That's wonderful, Ms. Said. Good luck with your project, and thank you.
Thank you so much.
For a wonderful session. I believe we'll end here. Thank you very much, Ms. Said. Take care.
Thank you, Mr. Bilal. Thank you so much for moderating this.